Hello and welcome back to another episode of Farewell Evangelion, the Neon Genesis Evangelion podcast, where we go through the full series bit by bit. My name is Keith, going through for his last time, and as always, I'm joined by Peter.
Hello!
Who is going through for his first. So, we went through Volume 15 of the Shinji Ikari Raising Project today. This was first released on August 26, 2013. Is it just an optical illusion, or are Rei and Shinji actually getting closer to one another? Asuka isn't too sure. But one thing you can be sure of is that she'll be giving the perception test a hard stare. And on that note, is Asuka falling victim to the same bakativity that affects her childhood friend as she decides to use some of Shinji's techniques to help bring Toji and Hikari closer together?
Yep.
Bakativity is a pretty good word.
Bakativity is a pretty great word. Alright, so, right off the bat, before we get into anything else, they went camping, Gendo was not involved, but I'm still giving myself classic Peterism partial credit for that point. Rei absolutely spent a lot of this volume thinking about her relationship with Shinji.
Yeah, the whole plot of her arc in this volume is memories with Shinji.
Yeah, exactly. Asuka has a head start because they were childhood friends growing up, so she has all these existing memories with Shinji, and now Rei has to spend this volume essentially building up memories with Shinji to balance out the measures. And then my third thing was Kensuke and Toji never appear again, and both of them play a prominent role in different chapters of this series. So,
yeah.
No, they did not go upstate for 20 years, unfortunately.
No, maybe just a couple days.
Maybe just a couple days. They did attempt to murder a child, but they might have been tried as children.
So
Toji might have gotten away with pulling out the student ID, and the judge might have bought it because his attorney made sure Toji didn't speak once during the trial.
Or maybe Toji did nothing but speak, and the judge just want to deal with it.
It's true. Toji started talking before it even began, and the judge just called it a mistrial just to be out of it.
Get this man out of my courtroom.
Yeah. Alright, so, this one was a relatively short one, only 5 chapters, and then a couple extra special bonus stages.
Yep.
So, first chapter started off with Asuka and Rei taking a shower, only to come out and realize that Shinji's not standing there waiting for them, and something weird's going on.
Yeah, they are all doing training, and once they all get out of their, facilities where they're getting ready, they're like, oh, Shinji is missing, that's weird, and are pretty much immediately told, yeah, Shinji sucks.
Yeah, remember that thing we've been talking periodically about how Shinji's a lot worse than them at everything? Well, we gotta do something about that. So there's some training, extra special training going on for Shinji. You guys are free to go home. And Asuka hears that, and she's like, sweet, I'm going the fuck home. And Rei hears that, and she's like, I'm gonna check on Shinji and make sure everything's all right.
Which leads to a pretty good joke of Rei hearing through the door and misunderstanding.
Yeah, she hears Shinji, or Satsuki commenting on Shinji being really tense. Him talking about how he's not usually awkward like this.
He's gonna use a special Indian technique.
Yeah, you're not afraid, are you? Just do whatever feels natural and go with the flow. And then she pipes up, in ancient India, they referred to this technique as, and Rei busts down the door and she's like, bad touch! Shinji, that's a bad touch! Don't do that, Shinji, it's a bad touch!
Oh, I didn't know Rei was a fan of Bloodhound Gang.
Yeah, it's a great song.
Few years past the time, though.
Yeah, also, there's a solid chance no one in our audience gets that reference. And if that's the case, just Google Bloodhound Gang Bad Touch, and everything will make sense. But also,
especially what they're saying.
But also, don't tell anyone we're the ones who told you to look that up. Just
I want to point out here that Neon Genesis itself started in '95. The listeners are roughly around the same group of aging as we are.
Oh, I mean, that's assuming they got into Neon Genesis when it first started coming up. There's also the entire possibility that they're 12-year-olds who only discovered Neon Genesis this year and wanted a podcast to help them through the process. And if that's the case, send us an email after asking your parents to explain how email works. And then let us know what your thoughts on Evangelion are as someone who just discovered it this past year.
I mean, real talk here. I don't think a 12-year-old should be going through this.
Yeah, that's true. Also, if you're a 12-year-old, while you're asking your parents to help you figure out email, also ask your parents to not allow you to have access to the Shinji Ikari Racing project. This is definitely not designed for 12.
Well, just Neon Genesis in general, right? I think there's a few ones that are more aimed towards children specifically, like Petite Eva. But yeah, the Neon Genesis franchise as a whole is, I think, a little advanced for someone 12 years old.
Yeah, that's... This is getting into dangerous territory where if we do have 12-year-old fans, they're going to get real annoyed about us referring to them as not mature enough for this series.
Oh, no, they can listen to the podcast. That's fine.
Oh, yeah, no, they're more than welcome to listen to the podcast. Although also some of the shit we've talked about on the podcast, I don't know that they should listen to the podcast, but I'm also not going to tell them not to listen to the podcast. How do I put this? If you are 12 and listening to the podcast, once again, get your parents to help you figure out email and send us an email. Telling us what your life's like. Continue listening to the podcast, but also we do not endorse listening to the podcast or reading any of the source material that we were discussing on the podcast.
That should make us legally not viable.
I think we covered our legal basis there.
Yeah.
Alright, so Ray
Satsuki wants to get out of work again and says, Ray, you do it.
Yeah, she's like, alright, Ray, if you're so concerned about bad touches, how about you help Shinji? Well, first of all, Ray's like, oh, I see you're just doing stretching, I'm gonna go. And then Satsuki's like, alright, cool, in that case, Shinji, this next technique, in ancient India they called it, and Ray jumps in and she's like, what if I did it? What if I just stayed here and watched? And Satsuki was like, well, if you're gonna stay here and watch, then you might as well do it, and I'm gonna go. So Ray ends up doing all the stretching of Shinji. She stretches him right out.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure how this is extra work, because, like, is his, like, flexibility really the problem? Because it's just stretching and then running, really.
Yeah, it's stretching, and then he runs a number of laps, at least 3, don't know exactly how many. All we know is as he's finishing a lap, Ray tells him that he has 2 more laps to go, but also don't rush yourself, because there's no need to hurt yourself.
Yeah. And this is kind of where the Inception idea comes in, because they end up running past an orchard of some sort that apparently Shinji and Asuka planted trees in. And Ray realizes, oh, they have a shit ton of memories going back very far. I can't even compete with this.
Yeah, because Yui had, when they were first building the artificial evolution labs, Yui had commented on how if they don't do any landscaping, the area is going to look really sad and boring. So they should plant some trees around it. And that just meant that they got Asuka and Shinji to plant some trees, and this causes Ray to realize they have all these memories from their childhood, and like reminders directly in front of them of all their memories from their childhood. And there's just no way I can compete with that. There's nothing I can do. And while she's having that thought, Shinji's like, oh, look, there's a weird gap between the trees. Maybe we should plant a tree together, Ray. And Ray's like, that's true. I can just create new memories with Shinji instead of worrying about the existing memories.
We have to one up these trees, though. We need a massive tree. A large tree.
We need a giant sequoia. The largest tree that grows on Earth. And Shinji's just like, okay, Ray.
We shall plant Yggdrasil.
We shall plant Yggdrasil. And we shall open the gate between realms. And we shall conquer realms unknown to us, Shinji. It's like, okay, Ray.
Yep.
Okay.
But, of course, in normal fashion, all good moments are ruined, and Shinji does his Shinji powers, and ends up doing, like, another grope thing, which this one immediately gets cut off by a sound as well, and it's like, oh, what, who's there? And then fucking Gendo comes walking out of the trees.
Yeah, he explains that he likes to do some gardening on the area around here, and she's just like, why are you doing this at night? And Gendo's like, a man's gotta have secrets, Shinji, and then he just walks away.
Yeah, he's like, what's he say specifically? Something about, like, discretion? Yeah, one day you'll learn the power of discretion, Shinji, and he just kind of fucking walks away.
Yeah, and so this chapter ends with Rei kind of resolving to herself that she's gonna take things one step at a time, and she's gonna build up the kind of memories with Shinji that she needs to have to be able to compete with Asuka. And if that means taking every single memory Shinji has with Asuka and one-upping it by building a fucking world tree where that memory took place, then by God, Rei's gonna do that.
Oh, man, that sweet memory right there. That time that Asuka stabbed me on the playground and had to put a bandage on me. And she pulls out like something large, like I got to make a bigger wound.
No, it's always just going to be planting a giant sequoia tree. Oh, this is the playground where you got stabbed by Asuka that one time? Well, too bad there's a giant fucking tree there! Every time you try and remember Asuka stabbing you, you'll instead be confronted with the tree that we planted together.
Something happened here, but I can't remember what it was because this Ray tree's in the place.
Yeah. This middle school where you studied with Asuka, I'm also studying with you, Ray. But yeah, you have memories of studying with Asuka here. I mean, yeah, she's in our class. Giant tree in the middle of the classroom.
Remember how that used to be Asuka's desk? Giant tree!
Remember how that used to be Asuka's bedroom? Giant tree! Alright, Asuka, I guess we're gonna have to sleep in the same room now since you can't sleep in your room anymore. Fuck, this backfired.
Asuka's not real anymore. She's a giant tree.
Remember Asuka? I planted a giant tree in her stomach. She's dead now. Yeah. So, next chapter is the one where I got partial credit, because that's where they go camping.
Great chapter, by the way.
It is a great chapter. So it's Shinji, Toji, Kensuke, Asuka, Rei, Hikari. Who am I forgetting about? Mana are all going camping.
And Ibuki and Misato.
Yeah, Ibuki and Misato are chaperoning the event, essentially. So they're going up to a big old grass field, setting up some tents, camping out for the night. Mana's doing classic Mana things, talking about how she wouldn't mind lying under the stars with no tents if she was next to Shinji.
I think the big thing to take away from this is her bush plan. Underbrush.
Yeah, you want to go hide under in the bushes or something like that?
No, it's disappear into the
underbrush. Disappear into the underbrush.
Yeah. And by God, does she stick to that plan?
Yeah, Shinji, let's go disappear into the underbrush. Asuka's like, shut up, Shinji, we need to set up tents. And Mom's like, okay, well then later we'll go into the underbrush. And Asuka's like, fuck off, I'm going to murder you in your sleep. Specifically what she says is Mana has a poor work ethic, so avoid her at all costs, Shinji.
Which is funny, because I think she might have the strongest work ethic of anyone here, outside of possibly Ibuki.
Yeah, it's just her work ethic is based around her goals, and her goals are getting to the underbrush with Shinji. So Kensuke gets real aggressive about the fact that people are chatting along, having fun. And it's very important that they show some discipline, coordinate, and work as a unit. And most importantly, they all have to refer to him as commander, because he's in charge of this whole operation. This whole operation was his idea, by the way.
That's good to know.
So they start making fun of him, obviously, and then ignoring him. And he's like, alright, fine, you don't have to call me commander, but just do what I fucking say so we can get through this. And so he coordinates, the men are going to set up the tents while the girls take a break, and then later on, they'll cook dinner.
Yeah,
and lunch.
Through all of this, it seems Misato and Kensuke are aware of something, and they're manipulating what's going on, and it kind of comes off like they're setting up, the pairing system, because it's like, Toji is having a good time with Ikari, and all the other girls in Shinji are having a good time.
Yeah. Hikari is playing her usual Asuka friend move of like when they start making curry. They're like, Asuka, how about you make curry, and Shinji, you should help her. And then I guess I'll make the rice. I've made rice before over a campfire. I know it's a little tricky. Toji, you should help me with making the rice. And Toji immediately takes that as, yo, Kensuke, you need any help? Yo, Misato, you need any help? And everyone's like, fuck off, Kensuke.
Toji's like, big dog, don't hunt. Wait,
yeah.
What?
So, yeah. Hikari tries to set it up so Shinji and Asuka are cooking curry together. And then Mana pipes up and she's like, I'm a gold star curry making expert. And Shinji's like, that's not a thing, but also I'm blind to your nefarious ways. So let's make out a little bit and then we'll make curry. And everyone gets upset at Shinji because he keeps just leaning into Mana's nefarious ways.
I mean, as we learn from this, though, Mana is, very calculating in her moves, more so than it appears to be, so I can't blame Shinji for not being able to deal with this, because Shinji's not that smart.
Oh no, Shinji's absolutely not that smart. It's just literally every time, to go back a couple chapters, or volumes, we keep having the moments of Shinji being told you have to choose between Rei and Asuka, who are you going to choose? And Shinji's like, oh, I don't know how to choose. And then Mana's like, hey Shinji, what if we just like hold hands and make out a little bit? And Shinji's like, I choose that every single time. And it's just like, Shinji's kind of
the way that leads to the least amount of ass kicking for myself.
Yeah. It's just every time Mana does anything overtly flirtatious with Shinji, Shinji immediately goes along with it. And like, I'm not saying that's bad writing or anything. If I was a 13-year-old boy and a girl walked up and was overtly flirtatious with me, I'd be like, yeah, sure, let's hold hands and make out under brushes, I guess. But it is kind of funny that Shinji keeps acting awkward and flustered and like he doesn't know how to interact with Asuka or Rei. But the moment Mana does anything slightly direct towards him, he's immediately on board with going along with it. It's very amusing to me.
Another funny thing about this is with the curry making thing. We see Mana's plan take effect where she kind of injects herself into the situation, but she completely explained in earshot of Asuka and Rei she was going to do this.
Oh yeah, no. She specifically pulled Rei aside and was like, hey, within earshot of Asuka, pulls Rei aside and says, hey, I'm working up devious plans to trick Shinji into loving me. Do you want to help me with my devious plans? To which Rei, you would think, based on Rei's character, she would say no or be awkward, but instead she's more so curious, like, ooh, is that something we can do? Are we allowed to make devious plans to make Shinji fall in love with us?
I'm not going to do the devious plans, but I'm going to stay here to watch you to make sure I don't accidentally do them.
Yeah, I'm not a part of the devious plans, but I'm going to spectate the devious plans and learn from them. That's what I'm planning on doing.
Just to make sure I don't do it by accident.
Exactly. It's that one episode of The Simpsons where Lisa and Bart build a box for it, but to start it off, they see Flanders getting boxes in the mail so he can ship stuff, and Flanders is like, now remember, if you call this phone number, they will send you as many boxes as you ask, free of charge. So I'm going to leave the phone number for this company next to your phone so you don't accidentally call them. And that's what Rei's doing right now is, I'm going to sit down and watch your devious plan so I don't accidentally do a devious plan myself. Yeah. So that happens. They end up cooking food.
And then we get the reveal of why they're actually all there.
Yeah, what's the secret camping activity that's going to come in Chapter 2? Or Chapter 3, I guess, technically.
Yeah.
Part 2 of this act.
So Kensuke has out a lot of guns.
Yeah, Kensuke grabs a bunch of guns and he says, hey boys, we're doing a battle royale. And then, not to, like, complain too much, but the way he describes it right then, he does describe a battle royale, even making reference to the book, Battle Royale. And, Misato's, like, fully on board with it. And other people are like, oh, well, I guess if our teacher's okay with it. And she's like, in the book Battle Royale, the teachers were also okay with it. And then when you get to the next chapter, they don't do a Battle Royale. Like, I'm not saying I wish they did a Battle Royale, but they objectively do a capture the flag, not a Battle Royale.
Yeah. It's a team deathmatch at best.
Yeah.
But Rei does attempt to make one last play where she's practicing and makes a move on Shinji. Thus stepping up her game.
It starts off with Rei being a little bit flustered because she makes a point of saying to Shinji, I hope we end up on the same team for the Battle Royale, which based on the way things have been described by it so far, I don't know why you're wishing for that, Rei, because Battle Royales don't have teams. But good luck on being on Shinji's team for the Battle Royale. But then she ends up like walking around at night thinking like, there's a chance we won't be on the same team and we'll have to fight against each other, and I don't know what to do with that information because we can't make memories if we're not on the same team. And then we find Shinji walking around late at night as well, and Rei does a devious plan of her own. And you can tell, because while walking towards Shinji in the night, like talking to him, she has the thought bubble of what would he do at this point, and then she fakes tripping so that she can run in and like do the awkward Shinji trip hug rope onto Shinji, and then makes the comment of, oh, I'm fine, but just to be safe in the future, how about you hold my hand so I don't trip again? Which, very devious of you, Rei.
But of course, Asuka and Mana, the most devious of them all, knew what was going to happen and were there. But I love the part about Misato and Ibuki in the bushes. And Ibuki's like, but I thought I was supposed to report people for doing this.
Yeah. So that's the end of this chapter. The next chapter starts off with the beginning of the Battle Royale, which has now been explained to us, is actually more of a team deathmatch / capture the flag.
Yeah. So the lots get drawn, and the teams are Asuka, Shinji, Maya, Kensuke, and the other team is Mana, Toji, Hikari, and Rei.
Also important to note that while they're getting changed, everyone is shitting on Misato for being a terrible teacher. Just like a thing that's happening. So after the lots get drawn, someone calls out Misato and is like, Misato, why aren't you playing? And she's like, oh, because I'm here to teach and be a chaperone, so I shouldn't be playing. And then Ibuki's like, oh, in that case, I should probably be chaperoning and not participating as well. And then Misato, like, grabs Ibuki and pulls her real fucking close, and, like, what I can only read...
That's not an even fucking number, Ibuki!
Yeah, what I can only read in the most menacing fucking tone possible. She's like, you know, I overheard while you guys were getting changed, so I want to talk about me being a terrible teacher. So how about I do some teaching right now, real quick? 9 divided by 2 isn't an even fucking number. 8 divided by 2 is, so you're fucking playing. And Ibuki has the thought bubble of, wow, she's a really good fucking teacher. Meanwhile, everyone else is like, man, Misato's fucking dumb, and somehow Ibuki is dumber. But we're all just gonna go along with it.
Meanwhile, Rei has entered the greatest depression of her life.
Yes, because she is not on the same team as Shinji. And we even see the thought process of, we went from acquaintances to friends to something more than friends, and now we're enemies, and I'll have to kill him on the field of battle. And how can we become friends if we're murdering each other?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Mana takes a different approach of happily running up to Shinji and being like, yo, we're not on the same team and I may have to kill you, but don't think that doesn't mean I love you. I still love you, even if I have to kill you on the field of battle.
I'm killing you with love.
Much like my mother did to me. Yeah, so that's kind of the setup for this one. We're now going to get into
Shinji also is like, he tries to ask Rei what's going on. She's like, oh, nothing. He's like, I don't know if I can shoot her with how depressed she is.
Yeah, she's super depressed right now. I definitely can't fucking shoot her while she's like this.
So the greatest thing happens at the start of this.
Yeah, so Kensuke starts out full leader mode of, I'm going to walk you through our strategy. Here's everything that's
also, a very important thing here. Getting hit by bullets, regardless of who fired it, removes you from the game.
Yeah, friendly fire 100% on.
You win by eliminating the full enemy team or getting their flag.
So, Kensuke starts going into his whole leader drama explanation of, I'm the commander, as long as you all do exactly what I say, we'll come out of this alive and victorious. And while he's going through this speech, Ibuki shoots him.
Yep, in the face.
Yeah, because she's never used a gun before and wanted to see how it worked, and so she accidentally shot him in the face. And so he's eliminated, but he has the thought bubble of, well, at least I had a couple moments of being the happy leader before it all went down.
Yeah, which is, the standard Kensuke move of Kensuke gets his moment to shine, and it's ripped from him by somebody.
It's torn straight out of his fucking hands.
Thus, establishing more with this universe, Kensuke is never allowed to be happy.
Yeah. So yes, going forward into it a little bit further, Ibuki is then shot almost immediately afterwards, because while Shinji and Asuka are both kind of low to the ground, Ibuki's standing up, and when they yell at her to get down and get closer, she runs over towards them, but then gets shot across the field by Toji. Yep. So the current numbers are 2-4, and Asuka comes up with the plan of Shinji and her are going to split up and go in separate directions, because the other group will assume someone will stay behind on defense, so if they both go off on offense, then they can't lose.
Also, the presumption is that Toji is the only good shot on the other team, which we fucking know that's not true about Rei, and at the same time, the players the characters might not know this, but Mana is, I'm positive, by far the best one on the field.
Oh, 100%.
So the teams are actually very much stacked against Shinji's team.
100%. Asuka was the only good shot. Kensuke probably was a good shot, but was doomed to not participate.
You never bet on Kensuke.
Yeah, no, I would be willing to bet Kensuke was the best shot out of any of them, and I was also willing to bet Kensuke was not going to get to fire a single shot. Both of those things were equally accurate the entire time. Although, if you think about it, Ibuki currently has a 100% headshot rate, so she might actually be the statistically best shot in the game. So maybe the teams were kind of balanced, if you think about it that way. Anyways, so Shinji goes one way, Rei goes the other.
Asuka, because Shinji then runs into Rei, and they make the agreement of, let's just pretend this never happened.
Yeah, because Shinji doesn't want to shoot Rei while she's depressed, and Rei doesn't want to shoot Shinji and ruin their relationship. So Rei's just like, let's just pretend we didn't see each other. You know, it's not the first time we've said those exact words to each other. And then they go off in their opposite directions.
And then while that's going on, Asuka gets dead to rights Toji from behind.
She calls out that she's going to shoot him, and then at the last second, Hikari jumps out and takes the shot for him. And I don't understand how these guns work, because then Asuka just watches Toji run away instead of...
Well, he has the dying Ikari moment with her too. It's like, oh, I'm gonna repay this debt somehow. Maybe I'll get you a soda next week or something. We'll go halves, right?
We'll go halfsies on a soda. I won't buy you a whole soda. I'll pay for half of the soda that you're buying for yourself. How about that? And Asuka just watches this happen and goes, oh, damn, I guess I got Hikari instead of Toji, and there's nothing I can do to get Toji now.
Maybe she felt that the situation was so pathetic she didn't want to sully herself by shooting him.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then we get the setup to what is probably the coolest thing, which does not last long enough.
Yeah. Which is Asuka and Rei running into each other and having the firefight of the fucking ages between the two of them. Which is fantastic. At the same time, Toji gets the drop on Shinji and calls out that we're going to do this like men. And so Mana tackles Shinji into the underbrush, and she finally gets the moment she's been scheming for all along.
Yeah, she's like, oh, let's keep quiet and let's chill here in the underbrush. Meanwhile, Toji's like, I'm gonna get you. And she fucking ricochets the shot off a tree and hits him in the head.
Yeah, she pulls some, wanted bullshit, where she, shoots it ricochets off of a tree branch into his head. And he's
it's
eliminated.
blind fired, too, because she didn't know where he was.
Yeah. At this point, Misato calls out that it's now 2v2, and reminds everybody that one of the two ways to win the match is to fully eliminate the enemy team, to which Shinji remembers at this point Rei and Asuka are probably guns a-blazing with each other. And so he realizes, so long as Mana never shoots at him, then he can pretty easily win by capturing the flag right now. So he starts running for the enemy flag.
Yeah, and him running for the flag is such a distraction that, there's this really cool shootout going on with Asuka and Rei that he runs through the middle of, and they both get so confused by it that their firefight partially stops, but not before they both fire off, before the confusion, hitting each other, eliminating each other.
Yeah, so it's just Shinji and Mana left. Mana somehow managed... Well, I guess Mana knows where the flag is and Shinji doesn't.
Well, Mana is clearly the biggest badass in this series.
Oh yeah, Mana's also... Even if they both knew where it was and Shinji had a 30-second head start, Mana would still beat him there. It could be a 100-meter dash. Shinji could have a 60-meter head start and Mana would still win that race. In any case, Mana beats Shinji to the flag and stands between him and tells him that she doesn't want to, but she will kill him if she has to. And Shinji's like, oh, but what you don't understand is I still have a card up my sleeve. And then he activates his harem powers in such a way that he lands on top of her and gropes her, but also is touching the flag at the same time. And so he wins! Way to go, Shinji! Woo!
And then he's murdered again by Asuka and Rei.
Yep, because he groped Mana while catching the flag. And honestly, he deserves it, because he clearly activated his groping powers intentionally.
Which is funny enough going into the next chapter, where I'm pretty sure Shinji hits puberty. That was the plot point I took away from this chapter.
I would definitely... I don't know about puberty specifically, but Shinji definitely had a sexual awakening at some point, and this is where we're realizing he's aware of the female form at this point.
Yeah, and it was math homework and Asuka reading what is clearly a knockoff Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Yeah, and she's shitting on the manga entirely. Meanwhile, Shinji's just asking her for help, and she is flat out refusing to do help. And then she's like, well, if you're not going to help, can you at least go buy the ingredients for dinner tonight for me to make later? And then she leaves. And she's like, there's no fucking way I'm going to finish this homework before she gets back. And she's going to give me a hard time, and it's fucked. And then his savior walks through the door. Because
the person who assigned the homework.
Exactly. If you're having trouble with your homework, the most important person to ask for help is not another student who's perhaps gifted. Ask your teacher for help with the homework. And
I do fucking love that Misato takes a look at it like she's actually gonna help him, and she's like, you can see the confidence disappear from her face frame by frame. It's like, you know what? You need to do this yourself, Shinji. That's the only way you'll ever get better.
Yeah, and Shinji's like, you don't even know how to do this, do you? And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm a teacher. I'm just not good at math. The next set piece we get, Asuka returns and she's even more frustrated at Shinji for not doing his homework. And so we get another little bit where Asuka finally agrees to help Shinji with his homework after dinner. Meanwhile, Misato is just bored now, so she starts reading the shitty Neon Genesis manga and also shits all over it. Shinji's still explaining to both of them, I have not read it yet, please stop ruining it for me before I've had a chance to read it myself. Which, honestly, Shinji, that's the wrong mentality to have. If someone does ruin something like that for you before you have a chance to get into it, then it can save you from doing roughly 80 episodes of a podcast about it. So, probably would have been for the best if he just let them ruin it for him and then never actually got into it himself.
I think they still would have put him through it if he even knew.
It's a happy thought to think about is living in a
I'm
world
not saying
where...
that, I'm just saying it's wrong.
I know, I'm just saying, I choose to imagine a world where Neon Genesis was fully... this random nameless manga was fully ruined for Shinji, and then he didn't have to do an 80-episode podcast about it.
Never gonna happen.
And his world was free and clear and happy. That's the world I choose to live in. Or think about living in, because I don't live in it. That's not the world I live in.
Sounds like wishful thinking.
It does sound like wishful thinking, and I'm wishful about my thinking. Anyways, Asuka ends up helping him with the homework. Also, Shinji keeps ogling Misato while doing homework.
Well, he does it to Asuka, too. He keeps ogling both of them.
Yeah.
In fact, him getting attacked by Misato when Asuka comes back with the things. The best part is Shinji's like, "Oh shit, here it comes," and she fucking hits Misato and says, "Act your age." Yeah,
but she also does point out to Shinji, "You're only getting a verbal thrashing this time, but next time, please at least try to resist Misato." Yeah, and so that's kind of this chapter. It's Shinji doing homework with. Trying to get help from both Misato and Asuka, them both initially refusing, and so Shinji decides to take the opportunity to ogle them, and then Asuka finally agreeing to help him. And that's...
Well, no, because then after that she decides, hey, do you want me to clean your ears?
Right, yes, she offers to clean his ears, and he's like, that's something only old married couples do. And then she's like, yeah, well, Hikari taught me how to do it, and she does it for her little sister, so we're going to do this anyways. And then she sits down and taps on her lap for him to rest his ears or rest his head, and he's immediately like, "Oh wait, no!"
Come here, Shinji, rest your ears.
Now that I think about it, this sounds like a great idea. And so he rests his head on her lap, and then Misato immediately walks in and makes fun of them, and that causes Asuka to get real fucking violent with Shinji unintentionally. And I'm willing to bet he can't hear out of his left ear anymore, based on what happened in that scene.
You got a partial lobotomization.
Yeah. Also, as always, the powers activate briefly, and after getting his eardrum punctured while trying to stand up, he falls over and gropes Asuka, because that's what this series is.
Yeah. And the final words of the chapter is, you gotta take the soon with the day ray, Shinji.
Yeah.
Thus Asuka acknowledging what she is.
100%. She is fully aware of who she is as a person. Alright, final real chapter of this volume. It's time to clean some stairs. So, we start off with Misato explaining that there's first of all, explaining that there's not a terrible plague plaguing the world. Despite everything you've heard, there's definitely no global pandemic going on, and never has and never will.
You know, maybe I judged your earlier statement too hard there, Peter. Maybe this would be a good world to be in.
Yeah. She does explain that there's a bit of a flu hitting the school. No, it's not too bad in that class. And she has no fears about it hitting her class. To which Asuka pipes up and she says, "Why is that? Is it because of the whole idiom about idioms don't catch the flu?" To which Misato returns, which is fucking great. That's definitely not what it is because I have conclusive proof that's not true. And then the next frame is Toji at home sick with the flu. Yeah, so flu's hitting the school real fucking hard. Toji's home sick. And so class kind of ends there, and Misato pulls aside Shinji and Rei, and she's like, "I was hoping you guys could help me out because I offered to help out Kaji, because his class being hit really hard with the flu, so I offered to help do his duty and clean the stairs, and I was wondering if you guys would clean the stairs for me." And Shinji's thought process is, she's lost more money to Kaji at this point, hasn't she? That's what's going on, and this is her way of paying off his debt. And Rei's thought process of, this is an opportunity for me to spend one-on-one time with Shinji.
The memories.
Make some memories. Let's fucking do this. Let's go. Let's go, buddy boy. Let's fucking go.
You, me. School stairs. No items. Fox only.
Fox only. So she immediately is like, well, not immediately, but after thinking for a couple of seconds, she's like, yeah, no, we'll do it. And she's like, are you sure, Rei? Are you sure you're willing to do that? And Rei's like, yeah, of course we'll do that. And she's like, cool. Let me go find an emotional buffer. And Rei's like, what? And she's like, well, I mean, if we had a third set of hands, the cleaning would go faster. And also, I just want an emotional buffer so we don't get closer and make any unique memories together during this time. And so he tries to first get the class rep, because class rep is very diligent, and of course she'd be willing to help clean. But unfortunately, as already mentioned, Toji's sick, so class rep is instead focusing on the task of making sure Toji gets and does his homework.
Asuka declines for the same reason.
Asuka declines because she's going with Hikari. And Kensuke declines because there's a new gun coming in that he wants to pick up. And then he pulls Shinji aside and he's like, that's not actually the real reason. I'm doing this because I'm your friend, and my two options right now are helping you clean and act as an emotional buffer, or I can go collect my gun now, and then it's just you and Rei hanging out all alone, cleaning stairs together. Who knows what will happen? Maybe your powers will
you're the real hero.
Kensuke really is the truest friend. That or he's very bitter about how Shinji's life has been going, and he's putting up a brave front.
I mean, he's still putting Shinji's needs above his own, which ultimately, regardless of the reason...
He is definitely a good friend. He clearly learned a lot while upstate for 20 hours. So, it's just Shinji and Rei doing the cleaning of the stairs, because those are the only three other people in the classroom.
Yeah, no one else exists. No one else to ask.
I mean, Toji exists, but he's not in the classroom because he's sick.
Yep.
And Kaoru hasn't existed in a long fucking time. I assume this one is like that last series we read, where after Kaoru fixed the problems in the relationships, he erased himself from the timeline, and everyone forgot about him. And it's just, Kaoru has already fixed what he needed to fix, so he's erasing himself from the timeline.
My job here is done.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I assume is happening.
He pulled a Ritsuko.
Yeah. That's true. Ritsuko's also just fucking gone.
Well, she said as much last volume.
That kind of fucking makes sense now that I think about it, because Kaoru was initially introduced as Seele's plant to try and influence the artificial evolution laboratories, and his direct supervisor, like the person he checked in with, was Ritsuko. So the moment Ritsuko fucked off, Kaoru had no one left to like check in with about his operation, so of course he's gone now too. kind of a bummer. Could have stuck around and, like, fucked Shinji once before leaving, I guess.
Oh, we don't know what happened off screen.
Sure, maybe he did get that quick bone in. Anyways, so yeah, Shinji and Rei are cleaning the stairs. Rei points out that Shinji's very diligent at cleaning and asks if he does all the cleaning in his apartment. And Shinji's like, yeah, I'm kind of the only one who does chores. Honestly, I don't know about Asuka. That time last chapter during the extra special bonus change when you got drunk, I think Asuka was just embarrassed and that's why she did all the cleaning. Not because you were drunk, just that there was a mess. But other than that, I've never really seen Asuka do any cleaning. And Rei's like, very subtly, have you ever been inside Asuka's room? And she's like, yeah, I don't really go in there, so I don't know if it's clean or not. And so Rei's like, sweet, I got the answer I wanted. I'm going to run away now and get some water for cleaning these stairs.
Which, as soon as this happened, I was like, there's no way in hell that she doesn't fucking fall and drop this bucket.
This bucket of water is covering one of the two of them, if not both. And it turned out it was both.
Yeah.
So yeah, she runs, gets a bucket of water.
Shinji fucking psychs her out as she's coming down the stairs, like, don't trip on the stairs. Like, wait, what?
That was an option, and then she does. And she dumps the bucket of water on both of them. And so they change into their gym clothes, and they hang their real clothes from the roof. And then they finish cleaning the stairs and hang it on the roof until their clothes is dry. It ends up being pretty late, so Shinji ends up walking Rei home.
And then Asuka calls them out on being out late, which Shinji does the back... Like, I can understand, like, oh, you're gonna, like, oh, okay, Asuka's like, it shouldn't have taken that long to clean the stairs. But at the same time, how fucking long did it take to drop off the schoolwork to Toji?
Yeah, like, Asuka calls them out and, like, what the fuck are you guys doing around? So, like, and Shinji, like, counters back of, I could ask you the same fucking thing. And Asuka's response is, I already told you I was going to be helping dropping off the homework to, Toji, which is just like...
He lives in the next town over.
They already told you they were cleaning the stairs after school, so their argument is equally as valid as yours. And she tries to make the argument of, like, why did that take so long? There's only 4 sets of stairs in the entire building. And it's just like, yeah, and there's only one Toji that you had to deliver paper to. Kind of seems like it didn't take them that fucking long.
I wasn't aware Toji lived in Tokyo 1.
Yeah. That, or what is probably what actually happened, is she delivered the homework, went back home, and after waiting 3 hours for Shinji to cook her dinner, she realized Shinji isn't there and started wandering around trying to find Shinji. And stumbled into Shinji.
Where's the food supplier?
But then, of course, once he calls out, what are you doing out in the town? She can't admit, I was looking for you because I've been waiting for dinner for 3 hours. She instead had to be like, I told you I was delivering paperwork to Toji, and then we, like, fucked a little bit. Are you jealous, Shinji? Does that make you feel jealous? Yeah, so that's probably what's going on. If I had to guess.
And then Rei fucking challenges Asuka to, like, the showdown with, like, oh, you should be nicer to Shinji.
I learned that Shinji likes nice people. And then we kind of...
That'd be the best fucking line if Rei's like, you see, after all this research, I learned that nice people is what Shinji likes, so fuck you, Asuka.
Yeah. And then the chapter kind of ends with... A chapter and volume, if we're not counting the extra special bonus stages, ends with Rei writing into her diary about her time spent with Shinji. And then she kind of has the thought process of, like, tying the volume together of, I know that Asuka and Shinji have memories that I'll never be able to replace, but I've done good work over the course of this volume, building up new memories that are special for just me and Shinji.
Yep.
Which, if you think about it, the memory she's built up is helping him stretch and then cleaning stairs. And I can't think of a single other time that they hung out.
The time they fought to the death of the forest.
To be fair, they both agreed to forget that ever happened, so technically that doesn't count as a memory they made.
But yeah, it kind of ends the volume with, I guess, Rei getting back confidence.
Yeah, it bookends the volume nicely. It starts with Rei being like, they have so many more memories given that they're childhood friends, and I only met him relatively recently. And then it ends with her realizing, even if they have longer history, I have been putting in the work to grow closer to Shinji.
Yeah.
Kudos to me.
Then we have the 3 bonus chapters at the end, but honestly, like, only one of them is actually, I think, worth going over, because the first one can be broken down to Rei takes bath, forgets to get underwear, has awkward encounter with Shinji, and the last one is Maya is helping Kaede do work and wears nerve staff armor and then gets attacked by Shinji, and then forgives Shinji.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. The third we don't really go over. The one thing I will say about the second is it continues the trend of anytime Asuka and Rei take a shower in a post-credit scene, it devolves into Rei having the thought process of, oh no, Asuka has bigger tits than me, what am I going to do about this?
Yeah. But it doesn't even play a part in it. It's just literally like the plot's just like, forgot underwear, awkward situation with Shinji, resolved.
It plays a part in the sense that the reason Rei forgets underwear is because she runs away when she sees Asuka getting groped by Satsuki and gets worried that she's going to get compared to her next.
Yeah.
So she runs away, and that's why she forgets her underwear. But yeah, that's it. That's that whole fucking special bonus stage. And as you said, the third doesn't even fucking matter. It's just, here's a scene of Ibuki, because we haven't gotten a lot of Ibuki.
Yeah, Ibuki's in Nerf uniform again. See?
You got your fucking fan service, fans. Are you fucking happy yet?
But Extra Stage 2, I think, could have very well been like a chapter in this volume, and it would have been fine.
I feel like it would have had to have been stretched out a bit longer, but it definitely could have been the plot of a chapter if it was a bit longer.
Yeah, because essentially it's just Ikari and Toji are going on a date, and Asuka is dragging Shinji along to make sure it goes well, and then Rei also shows up.
And the whole reason she's dragging Shinji along is because she believes Shinji's way of developing a relationship is the only way of developing a relationship, because her mind has been warped over the course of 15 volumes of Shinji doing Shinji things. So she has come to the conclusion that if they do perverted Shinji things, that will make their relationship develop. Because they're not actually on a date, they're technically buying a gift for Toji's little sister.
Yeah.
And Toji asks Hikari to come along to help provide a woman's perspective. And Asuka wants them to force the plunge and actually acknowledge that they have feelings. And based on how Shinji acts, she assumes she can get Shinji to cause perverted things to happen that develop the Hikari-Toji relationship. What she doesn't realize is the way Shinji's harem powers activate is it's always for Shinji's benefit, not for anyone else's.
Yeah. We learned this when Seele also tried to weaponize Shinji's harem powers.
Yeah. So when she tries to get Shinji to accidentally spill liquid all over Hikari and create a classic Shinji situation, he instead faceplants right into Rei's ass.
Yeah.
So then Asuka's like, man, you can't even screw up correctly. And she decides she's gonna play the role of Shinji for the second attempt. And from what I can tell, she just fucking body checks Toji from behind, so he falls gracefully on top of Hikari, and they look deep into each other's eyes.
But in fact, he actually just falls gracefully into the china.
Yeah. And then she books it out of the fucking store. And unfortunately, that means that because he broke all the china and they had to pay for it, they can no longer afford to buy a gift for Toji's little sister. But they came up with a really nice romantic idea, which is said Toji's going to cook her favorite food, but Toji doesn't know how to cook. So instead, Hikari and Toji are going to spend a bunch of time together while Hikari helps Toji cook food for... What was her name again?
Sakura.
I should have known that. Yeah, so they still end up developing their relationship in a romantic way that does Shinji's perverted machinations. But, of course, Asuka apologizes to Hikari and explains what happened.
Hikari also figured out what was fucking going on and made Asuka...
Yeah, because Asuka was running in a very Asuka-like way. So, when Asuka...
Which is with Shinji.
Yeah. When Asuka goes to apologize and Hikari gets confirmation that it was in fact Asuka, she's like, alright, cool, we're still going to cook food together, but you're also going back and buying the gift we couldn't afford because of the fact that you broke all the china. To which Asuka responds of, alright,
Shinji, give me money.
Shinji, you're going to help me. And she's like, I don't know what you expect from me. I'm not going to give you money, and I'm not going with you to do the shopping. So how am I going to help you?
I mean, you can't make a girl part with her most protected, precious thing, currency.
Exactly. It's ridiculous that he would try and do that. Anyways, that's this volume.
Yeah, overall, a really good volume. I enjoyed it. My favorite part is, I think, the whole showdown with Asuka and Rei in the survival game, and just Amada showing off the fact that we don't know the full story, but she is very clearly some sort of human research facility super agent.
Yeah, of course. There's something fucking going on with Mana. Yeah, no, I liked this volume. This volume had lots of fun times for everyone involved. It developed Rei's story a little bit, so Rei's gotten back some of her confidence, and hopefully that means her personality won't be the one-dimensional shy girl who likes Shinji. But maybe she'll grow back some of her depth, but...
Yeah, she gets a more aggressive with her moves, starting with that survival game, like in the woods part, where she actually, uses Shinji's moves against himself, essentially.
So yeah, hopefully we'll see more of that in the future.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that, but hopefully she will have character depth again, and won't just be sad girl.
Yeah.
Because, that was getting a little old, if I'm being honest.
Oh, very much so. But with that, I think we're ready to wrap up this episode, so if you want to get in touch with us, of course you can always reach out to us at email at whatismypodcastabout@gmail.com. These podcast episodes also go up every Wednesday on all podcasting platforms, as well as youtube.com. Make sure to follow, favorite, write a review, like, subscribe. Anything, word of mouth included, helps share the podcast and grow it. On top of that, we also have the Instagram page, Farewell Evangelion, where we upload on a regular basis daily with facts and tidbits about the series as we go through it, as well as polls and such. We're also pretty quick about getting back to you. And as always, Peter, on Volume 16 of the Shinji Ikari Raising Project, what can we expect?
Alright, so, we're going to get a soccer game. They're going to play against each other, probably the Artificial Evolution Labs versus the school. We're also going to get Kaoru. Kaoru's showing up again. I want Kaoru again, we're getting Kaoru again. And then last but not least, probably some form of Zuriel. We're going to get Zuriel in some way, shape, or form.
And plenty of fan service.